I covered the parallel between Gojo and Toji in another video and went over their overarching themes of power and being cursed and blessed. Today though, I want to talk about the parallel that I find extremely interesting, being the parallel between Itadori Yuji and Suguru Geto, and their overarching themes of consumption as well as their savior complexes. Yuji's story starts out similar to a lot of shonen MCs. He has a motivating factor within a deceased loved one, has an inner demon, and as a result has powers because of it. Things seem to go okay for him in the beginning, but as his story develops, Yuji is faced with adversity, loss, and reality very quickly and in succession. Sukuna killing Yuji and forcing himself into a contract, seeing Junpei, the person that he wanted to save so badly, die in front of him, and of course the thing that truly sent Yuji's mental health into the depths, the events of Shibuya. It's extremely clear early on that Yuji has a savior complex. Time and time again we see him putting himself in harm's way and against insane odds just to save someone. And the moment that truly made me realize how this complex was during the fearsome womb arc. In an environment that seems extremely dangerous, both Yuji and Megumi find themselves in a predicament. Yuji wants to bring back the body of a criminal to his grieving mother, while Megumi wants to focus on the task at hand. He's described by Megumi to be someone that wants to save as many people as possible and focus on going out with a natural death. You can interpret both of these things as being selfless, or both of them being selfish under the guise of being selfless. Does Yuji believe that if he saves people, he deserves a natural death, or does he save people impulsively while simply happening to desire a natural death? I think that in the case of Yuji, either of these can be true. To me, shonen MCs a lot of the time almost seem inhuman due to their perfection. No matter the situation, their reactions always fall on the morally white side. And at the start of the series, while this seems to be the case for Yuji, we begin to see that he is very human and at times becomes morally ambiguous or grey with his statements. And I think Sukuna within him, an objectively evil character who can be appropriately called morally black, spurs on this aspect of Yuji. Later on within the arc, we see Yuji on the verge of death, monologuing to himself. And it seems like he's adopted the idea of strength being pivotal to being able to die on your own terms. What I believe to be a common theme in Jujutsu Kaisen is that in order to grow stronger, some form of sacrifice is necessary. Whether that be predetermined, like in the case of a heavily restriction user such as Toji, who in exchange for cursed energy received exceptional physical strength and durability, or something spontaneous like Rika dying and Yuta gaining an immense amount of power following her death. What I'm about to say is based on the assumption that there is a link between the amount of fingers Yuji consumes and his store of cursed energy or strength. And the things leading me to this assumption is his display of strength right after Shibuya, as well as Yuji gaining a resistance to poison as shown in the Iso fight. We see over time that when Sukuna grows stronger through the fingers or makes an appearance, Yuji's mental health begins to deteriorate, Junpei and Shibuya being an example. It seems like in exchange for strength, Yuji is unwillingly sacrificing his mental health. Sukuna is the direct source of his mental turmoil, and those close to him or around him directly suffer in accordance to how strong Sukuna gets. And it begs the question of, can Yuji truly die on his own terms? He clearly enjoys the company of those around him, but as Sukuna grows stronger within him, he's forced to push them away in fear of harming them as well. If he's weak, he can't die on his own terms, but if he's strong, it doesn't seem like he can truly die on his own terms either, due to him pushing everyone away. Again, this is based off the assumption that the fingers have a correlation to the pool of Yuji's cursed energy and strength, and this is just my interpretation of it. After Mahito's involvement in the story early on and seeing Junpei die, I think this is where Yuji realized that he was naive. Naive about what comes with being a Jujutsu sorcerer, naive about cursed spirits, and more importantly than anything, naive about saving people. It's here that you can truly begin to see the resemblance in character traits both between Geto and Yuji. In the literal first panel we see Geto, he tells Gojo that it's not nice to pick on the weak, and through dialogue and actions, we very quickly learn that Geto is an extremely empathetic man who also shows traits of having a savior complex. His small argument with Gojo also cements this fact. He's of the belief that society should protect the weak and keep the strong in check, and that Jujutsu exists to protect non-Jujutsu sorcerers. It's clear to see that both Yuji and Geto believe their sole purpose is to protect the weak with the power they've been given. It's also important to note that both of these characters before their respective events that shifted their mentalities were relatively expressive characters and seemed to enjoy the company of those around them. The thing that set Geto off was the Star Plasma Vessel incident, and this is probably the most important event in the story. Riko gives Geto a heartfelt speech about why she wants to continue living a normal life for a while longer, and as Geto is accepting her decision, Toji comes through and puts a bullet right through her skull. This is eerily similar to what happened in the school with Junpei, Itadori, and Mahito. Junpei was giving Itadori Itadori a heartfelt speech and grieving over his mother, and as Itadori was accepting him, Mahito came through and killed Junpei. Right after Riko's death, we can already see Geto distancing himself from his peers and becoming more emotionally absent, pushing away the concerns from his friends. This is reminiscent of Yuji's attitude towards Megumi after the whole Junpei incident. He was acting like nothing happened, but eventually he vaguely admitted that something was wrong. And now I want to explore the themes of consumption. Both of these characters share the similarity of consumption being a contributing factor to their power, as well as a contributing factor to their mental health. Like I said earlier, as Yuji consumes more fingers, there's correlation with his strength, and Sukuna's negative influence on Yuji's surroundings become more apparent. Shibuya is the greatest example of this and is a defining character moment for Yuji. Yuji, a character who had centered his beliefs on saving people and protecting the weak, had witnessed his own body mercilessly killing and maiming innocent people, and as a result he completely broke down and wished death upon himself, and proclaims that he needs to fight while showing the readers an expression that couldn't be defined as anything but stoic. The once expressive Yuji had a dead look in his eyes, and coupled with the simple statement of "I need to fight" made him seem like a machine. Geto consuming spirits is a key factor in his ability, which is cursed spirit manipulation. Due to the large amount of spirits that were spawning, Geto underwent what he calls an endless cycle of exorcism and consumption, and the use of the word cycle is interesting in the fact that it bears relevance to a cog. He describes the taste of curses as something that nobody knows and begins to question his own integrity and decision to protect the weak. Geto made a realization after the death of Haibara, likening being a Jujutsu sorcerer to a marathon, and instead of a finish line, it's just a mountain of fellow sorcerers' corpses, and this pushes him to the conclusion of making a world of purely Jujutsu sorcerers. Despite both of these characters' breaking points being extremely similar, they both seem to take very different paths in order to deal with their trauma and achieve their new goals. Geto came to the realization that, simply put, he was being exploited and used like a tool by the system created by higher-ups. His and every other Jujutsu sorcerer's sole purpose to them was to exorcise spirits, nothing else. And after seeing his comrades die, it seems like he wanted to deconstruct this, but the thing that truly pushed Geto over the edge were the girls in the cage. In the moment where he was most mentally vulnerable, he was presented with a sight that truly broke him and made him turn on Jujutsu society and humanity as a whole. As explained in the series, curses are essentially the manifestation of negative emotions and experiences of human beings. I see them as figments of reality. As cursed spirit manipulation forces Geto to consume cursed spirits for more power, it can be interpreted as Geto swallowing a harsh reality. Reality is something that people tend to avoid a lot of the time, or try to forget about through various methods. For Geto, this could have been surrounding himself with his comrades, but through swallowing reality, both figuratively and literally, he realized that as long as curses remained present in the world, those who he cherished the most would continue to die, and as a result, took action after being pushed over the edge once too many times. Geto channeled his anger and rage at the world into his goal of killing all non-sorcerers and ridding the world of curses. You could still see this as Geto having a savior complex, in his intention to save the weak from torment and suffering from cursed spirits by killing them, but it feels like his mindset has evolved into something like a messiah complex, wherein which he thinks he can save the world. While Geto channels his anger towards the system that made him suffer, it seems like Yuji has taken an opposite direction and ended up conforming to the system. Yuji likens himself to a cog, a part of a machine, in order to give himself purpose. He's conforming perfectly into what the Jujutsu higher-ups want sorcerers to be, a machine that exercises curses. Tragic event after tragic event, it's no surprise that Yuji is broken. Junpei's death, him leveling the city, learning of Nanami's death, looking at the presumed corpse of Nobara. While it seems like Yuji held rage and contempt towards Mahito, it seems like he directed the rest to himself, and that led to him having the mindset of a cog. There's quite a lot I want to say about Mahito and how Shibuya changed Yuji and the series as a whole, but I don't want to make this video like 50 minutes long, and I already plan to make a whole other video on the importance of Shibuya, and I'll probably make a video on Mahito, so I'll leave it at that for now. The parallels between these two are crazy, and there's probably a lot I haven't mentioned or realized, so if you have your own theories, do comment them below because I'd be interested to see what you guys are thinking. And that's all. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a nice day.